On this week's Peace and Prosperity, we discuss the reasons North Korea set a year-end deadline for the U.S. to take action. We also take a look at what the close relationship between Washington and Tokyo would mean for nuclear negotiations down the road. Lastly, we meet South Korean students who started an online radio show to share the candid and inspiring stories of North Korean defectors with a local audience.
Hello and welcome to Peace and Prosperity. Following recent project launches, North Korea said that it may revert to ICBM and nuclear testing if there will be no third U.S. DPRK summit meeting by the end of this year. Why this time frame? Why by end of this year? We are going to examine this time frame set by North Korea and other issues on this week's Peace and Prosperity.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has kept a low profile since he inspected the test firings of projectiles in early May. Meanwhile, a North Korean mouthpiece in Japan, the Chosun Shinbo, urged Washington to take action by the end of this year. The year-end deadline was previously mentioned in Kim's address at the North Supreme People's Assembly in April.
올해 말까지는 인내심을 갖고 미국의 용단을 기다려볼 것이지만 지난번처럼 좋은 기회를 다시 얻기는 분명 힘들 것입니다.
Many wonder why North Korea has repeatedly highlighted the need to resume nuclear dialogue within this year. Some suggest Kim might have proposed a deadline to shore up internal solidarity in the face of economic and political challenges.
비핵화 협상 실패는 내부의 반발도 있고 최선희 부상이 얘기했잖아요. 군부에서 수천 통의 비핵화 반대 편지가 있대. 그건 내부 갈등이거든요. 그 다음에 대북 제재라는 효과가 전방위적으로 지금 확산되고 있어요. 모든 경제에. 그 다음에 식량난이 지금 북한 주민의 4분의 1, 그러니까 북한에 필요한 식량의 4분의 1이 부족한 상황이거든요. 지금. 그러니까 매우 어려운 상황이거든요.
It is meant to encourage the North Korean people to stay put without being agitated by the breakdown in nuclear talks and economic hardships. Watchers also point to external reasons for setting up the year-end deadline.
미국 내년 2월부터 이제 경선에 들어가기 시작하거든요. 그러면 모든 정치적인 그 초점이 국내 정치적인 선거에 맞춰지게 됩니다. 그 얘기는 뭐냐면 북한 문제에 관심을 갖고 있다손 하더라도 국내 정치적인 일정 때문에 트럼프 대통령이 올해만큼 내년에는 북한 문제에 신경 많이 쓸 수 없다는 것이죠.
It is true that U.S. President Donald Trump does not have enough time to use his denuclearization efforts for his 2020 re-election campaign. Experts argue that Kim is warning Trump that North Korea may return to provocations if sanctions are not lifted by the end of the year. He's hinting at a move that could change the U.S. public's favorable view of Trump's handling of North Korea and hurt his re-election chances. North Korea could also turn the tables in negotiations by helping Trump get re-elected. However, the 2020 U.S. presidential election may not necessarily work to Kim's benefit.
내년도의 정치 일정은 김정은 위원장에게는 두 가지의 가능성이 있는 거죠. 즉 자신의 레버리지가 더 커질 수 있다 협상. 또 하나는 그럼에도 불구하고 특히 트럼프 대통령이 재선에 실패한다고 그러면은 민주당은 지금 북한과의 이런 비핵화 협상에 반대하고 있거든요. 그러니까 오히려 김정은 위원장이 더 어려운 환경에 처할 수 있는 거죠.
Amid a prolonged stalemate in nuclear talks, North Korea is ramping up its pressure on the U.S. with strong rhetoric and projectile launches, but Trump is keeping his silence. He's highly likely to stall for time as he touts bringing North Korea back to the negotiating table through strong sanctions and deterring it from engaging in armed provocations as his major diplomatic achievements.
이미 핵실험과 ICBM으로 북한은 숨막힐 정도의 대북 제재에 직면해 있거든요. 그러니까 지금 시간이 흘러가면 흘러갈수록 고통스러운 건 북한인 거죠. 그러니까 트럼프 대통령으로서는 북한이 핵 실험과 미사일 ICBM 발사 같은 고강도의 도발만 하지 않는다 그러면은 급할 게 없는 거죠.
In the meantime, there are mixed views on whether North Korea will actually turn to military provocations if talks with the U.S. don't resume by the year end.
북한이 정한 시한까지 어떤 진전을 보내지 못한다면 김정은 위원장이 대내 통치에 있어서 굉장히 어떤 그 타격을 입을 수가 있거든요. 그러니까 그러한 부분에 대해서 책임을 이제 명확하기 위해서 그 책임을 미국에 돌리려 할 것이고, 그러한 그 책임 미국에 돌리면서 북한의 단호한 의지다 이러면서 보다 높은 수준의 도발할 가능성은 있죠.
다양한 매체나 대변인 논평이나 아니면 필수적인 언술이나 그다음에 단거리 발사체 같은 혹은 군사행보 같은 중저강도, 그러나 이게 광도가 높으면 안 되죠. 아예 판이 깨지니까. 이런 걸 통해서 미국을 압박하는 국면을 이어가도 볼 수 있어요.
While both North Korea and the U.S. have expressed willingness to continue dialogue, each differs in their approach and timing. Now attention is turning to how the timeline set by the North will affect future negotiations.
We are very pleased to have one of the best experts on these issues, Dr. Kim Jina, Research Fellow at the Korean Institute for Defense Analyses. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me today.
As you saw in the video clip, North Korean leadership set the deadline that United States has to come up with new calculation by the end of this year, 2019. Otherwise, then North Korea will not respond to any ideas and proposals from Washington also. So what do you think the likelihood of Mr. Trump and Mr. Kim Jong-un sitting together for the third summit meeting before the end of this year?
Well, North Korea certainly set a deadline, which can mean a threatening message to the outside world. But at the same time, I think it implies that North Korea is very, very desperate at this moment. And Washington actually knows it. And it is possible that Trump administration thinks it is in the upper hand, believing that just a little more push can get North Korea to make some kind of concessions in the future. So, so far, President Trump said that he's not in a hurry to negotiate with the DPRK. The likelihood, the possible scenario that I think is the U.S. government will just wait and see until North Korea come back to the negotiation table with a very clear end state and a very concrete roadmap. And the role that the U.S. government can do is just, I think, either accept it or reject it. That's very simple.
So your interpretation sounds like North Korea setting the deadline is not a sign of confidence that we can endure the pressure of sanction by self-reliance, but actually a voice of desperation?
Yes, right. The year 2020 is very important for the leadership in Pyongyang because Chairman Kim already promised to his people that it's going to revitalize its economy. And the 5-year economy plan set a deadline by 2020. So I think it's desperate, I think.
But Dr. Kim, I'm sorry, but North Korean leadership doesn't have to pay attention to the voice of the population. It's not a democratic political system.
But still, one of the uniqueness of Kim Jong-un's ruling style is more friendly to its people and more approachable to its people. And he certainly, although it's a dictatorship, but also he has to be concerned about the domestic audience cost at the same time. From U.S. perspective, North Korea issue can not be the top priority issue during the election campaign because other issues like domestic issues and foreign policy issues such as Iran, Venezuela, or Syria can dominate the debates during the election campaign period. That's why President Trump is trying to see and wait what North Korea can offer in response to the demands made by the U.S. government. And the recent threat of possible ICBM test came from a Joseon Shinbo, which is a newspaper based in Japan, not based in Pyongyang. And as far as I know, there was no such comments coming officially from the leadership in Pyongyang. So it's not a right time to predict what kind of provocation that North Korea can make at this point.
Let's turn to United States and Japan. President Trump was the first foreign dignitary to visit Japan after the enthronement of the new emperor of Japan, Naruhito. And he was well wined and dined by Prime Minister Abe Shinzo, including another golf. I think it's the 5th time between them. What kind of impact do you see coming from the solidified partnership between Tokyo and Washington?
I think as an ally, the U.S. has to consider Japan's threat perception very, very seriously. Due to the proximity of Japan to North Korea, I think Japan's concern is not just the ICBM, but other missiles as well. And it is possible that Japan wants not only a nuclear component, but other WMD component, including biochemical weapons, on the table for further discussions, especially for destruction of all those the programs and facilities. These can make the negotiation between the U.S. and the DPRK much tougher than we may expect in the future. And another issue that often comes up from U.S.-Japan dialogue is abductee issue. Previously in the past, this issue was supposed to be negotiated on the sidelines in a separate forum. But this time, President Trump, during his visit to Japan, met a group of families who possibly raised concerns about the abductee issue, telling him about horrible stories about the abduction. So that kind of concerns can add some complexity to the ongoing negotiation, I think.
But Prime Minister Abe must have been really disappointed by Trump discounting the significance of North Korea's recent test firing of projectiles, yes, because Trump did not call them clear violation of the United Nations Security Council resolutions or serious threat to South Korea and Japan as U.S. allies, but Trump called them small, right, missiles, whereas Prime Minister Abe clearly stated that Japan has every reason to be concerned because it's clear violation of United Nations Security Council resolutions.
Yes, right. President Trump said he's not really bothered by those missile tests, whereas Prime Minister Abe stressed that these are of great regrets. But we have to read the whole text, actually, because Prime Minister Abe mentioned that those tests are a clear violation of the U.S. Security Council resolutions. But at the same time, he also mentioned that he supports U.S. new approach to the DPRK. So I think the true intention was not just poisoning the environment. And with regard to discussion at the Security Council, well, I think we can't discuss it because many in the international community thinks North Korea tested ballistic missiles, short-range ballistic missiles. So that's a violation of the U.S. Security Council. But in our history, passing a resolution was possible when there was a nuclear test or multiple tests, including ICBM. And North Korea did not test ICBM this time. So it is not likely that the UN Security Council will pass another resolution without any support from China and Russia.
Okay. I'd like to ask this question because there are a substantial number of South Korean people who are concerned whether we have given too much concessions to North Korea to buy temporary peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. One example is that the suspension of major joint military exercises with the United States forces in South Korea. I'd like to hear your assessment whether South Korea is now so vulnerable to North Korea's possible threats and provocations. And second point is that these people also argue that in order to compensate for that loss of defense capability, we have to get closer to Japan as our security partners. But the state of bilateral partnership between Seoul and Tokyo seems to be at one of the lowest points. So do you believe that we need to increase, first, our own defense capability, and two, increase our partnership with Japan?
The recent U.S.-Japan dialogue sends out a significant message because Prime Minister Abe mentioned that Japan is the cornerstone of the U.S. strategy for Indo-Pacific region. In the previous days, we compared U.S.-ROG alliance and U.S.-Japan alliance as linchpin and cornerstone, and we enjoyed such a debate like which one serves better for the U.S. alliance system. But when it comes to Indo-Pacific strategy, there's nothing to compare because South Korea is not part of this grand scheme. That concerns me a lot. When a time that Japan is making so much effort to become a very strong partner to support U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy, well, South Korea's position is very much unclear. So we have to work on whether to contribute more to this type of a new initiative. However, I would like to also say that the security dialogue between the three countries is going on still, because on the 8th of May, there was a deputy minister level dialogue between the three countries, the U.S., Japan, and South Korea, and we agreed on actually three things, which was very clear to me. First of all, information sharing among three countries and joint exercises and high-level policy consultations. So this kind of dialogue will continue, especially during the Shangri-La dialogue this coming weekend. So it is likely that the three countries will work more on security cooperation in the future. And with regard to the joint military exercise, well, I must say that we scaled down joint military field exercises, but most of the field exercises has been done by South Korean Army. And we have CPX, command post exercises, which is a joint effort. And this continues because it's not a field exercise, it's a computer simulation-based exercises between the two countries. And we actually scaled down the large exercises, military exercises, into small ones. And battalion level exercises are continuing these days. So there is no indication that the military readiness is decreasing because of this kind of change. Also, I would like to also mention that deterrence has a lot of components, and joint military exercise is just one component of the deterrence against the DPRK. So I would say that, well, there are some changes, but that does not make much differences in our readiness.
All right, thank you so much for your thoughtful and thorough analysis of the current situation, Dr. Kim. Now I can relax and stretch my legs when I go to sleep tonight.
All right, thank you.
Nowadays, anyone can start internet broadcasts. We met with a group of undergrad students who created an internet radio show to better understand North Korea and share the stories of North Korean defectors in the South. Here's more on the story.
Kim Sun-bin is an undergraduate student in Seoul, and there's an internet radio program that he always tunes into, even during the exam period. Hosted by South Korean university students, Kim's favorite show features an up-close and personal interview with North Korean defectors.
방송 나와서 이렇게 그냥 보통 사람들이 보통의 이야기를 하는 겁니다. 이 사람들도 우리랑 똑같은 사람, 사실 환경만 달랐지 똑같은 사람이구나 이 생각이 제일 먼저 들었고요. 그리고 더 듣다 보니까 이 사람들이 그런 채로 남한에 와서 또 사는 걸 보니까 좀 확실히 우리가 이 사람들한테 너무 색안경을 끼고 그런 사는 것이 아닌가 한 좀 약간 그런 미안한 마음 이 사람들이 그렇게 남한에서 살면서 겪었던 일들 얘기하면은 그런 게 좀 들었습니다.
The radio show is produced by Enactus Yonsei, a Yonsei University branch of a global organization that encourages students to take entrepreneurial action to create a better world. Today, The team is discussing ideas for the upcoming episode. The members first became interested in North Korean society while taking part in Inactus Yonsei programs. Last year, they started a radio program dedicated to North Korean issues and North Korean defectors living in the South.
나는 북한에서 왔어를 말하기가 처음에 굉장히 어렵고 또 남한 출신 주민들도 이를 자연스럽게 받아들이기가 굉장히 어렵다는 것을 발견했어요. 그래서 저희는 그 고향과 음식을 먼저 소개하는 밥상머리 토크 컨셉의 팟캐스트를 통해서 나는 북한에서 왔어를 편안하게 말하고 또 이를 경험하는 남한 청자들이 북한 이탈 주민분들과 친해진다, 친구가 된다는 느낌을 받았으면 좋겠어서 시작하게 되었습니다.
The guest on today's episode is BJ Ep.10, a popular YouTuber with a large following. The young North Korean defector started online broadcast in 2016 to share his personal stories and first-hand experiences on the other side of the border.
안녕하세요. 토론토 깍두기입니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 공연불고기입니다. 안녕하세요. 청진 인조고기밥입니다. 특이하죠?
BJ Ep.10 says he was surprised by how South Koreans talked to him when he first arrived in the South in 2004.
어서 오세요 하는 이 말투가 너무 친절했어요.
He goes on to talk about how he settled into a new life in Seoul and started live broadcasts.
바로 일어섰죠. 짐 대충 싸고 친구한테 물어봤는데 인터넷 방송이다. 전 어떤 사람 면접을 보고 하는 거냐 했더니 아니래요. 그냥 아이디만 있으면 다 할 수 있는 거라고.
In a candid talk, the young host and the guest learn more about each other. The internet radio program's team hopes the interaction with North Korean defector guests can help bridge the gap between the two Koreas.
오늘 같이 했던 친구들이나 뭐 대학생분들이 조금씩이라도 이렇게 북에 대해 관심을 가져주시면 저도 지금 하는 방송이 그렇게 하고 있고 젊은 세대 친구들이 북한이란 나라에 아주 작은 관심이라도 주고 좀 알고 있었으면 하는 바람에 저도 하는 거기 때문에 이런 친구들이 있다는 거에 대해서 저도 되게 감사하다고 생각하고 있어요.
이제 사부작 MC로서 프로그램을 진행하다 보니까 정말 개개인 분들을 마주치면서 뭐 분명 그분이 그러니까 북한 분이시라는 특수한 정체성이 있지만 정말 사람에게 공감할 수 있는 지점을 다 가지고 있다고 생각을 해서 아 진짜 옆집 언니, 옆집 오빠 이런 느낌이구나 라고 해서 생각이 바뀌게 됐습니다.
Once the recording is finished, post-production starts. Publishing 4 episodes per week is a demanding schedule. The show was created to help reduce misunderstanding and prejudice against North Korean defectors. The team says they can feel the change happening within them.
자신감을 좀 가졌으면 그게 가장 큰 바람이에요. 저는. 북한 분들도 이왕 한국에 와서 한국에 온 이상 한국 사람인데 자기 출생지에 대해서 부끄러움이 없었으면 하는 그런 바람입니다.
탈북민에 대한 여태까지 자기가 가지고 있었던 편견이라든지 그런 점을 없애고 좀 더 넓은, 좀 열린 마음으로 사람들을 대할 수 있는 그런 방향으로 그분들이 받아들여줬으면 좋겠습니다.
We hope the South Korean students' internet radio program experiment to bring the two Koreas closer together will appeal to listeners of all ages and generations.
Bonsai this week examines what makes Japan invest so much effort in solidifying U.S. Japan security partnership. Imagine this. Japan and the United States were fierce adversaries during the Pacific War 70 years ago. Today, they are shoulder-to-shoulder partners. But the current conditions of international politics compel Japan and the United States need each other, perhaps more than ever. For Japan, rising power of China deepens its security concerns. Moreover, Japan is within the range of nuclear missile attacks from North Korea. Japan also needs to cooperate with the United States to protect the sea lanes for its trade and energy supplies. Any crisis in the Persian Gulf, the South China Sea, and the Indian Ocean pose existential threats to Japan. Considering all this, nobody would be surprised by the warm reception of the U.S. President Donald Trump by the Japanese government last week. And this ends this week's Peace and Prosperity. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching.